This is the Conscious Mental Health Podcast for curious clients and conscious clinicians. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered health or mental health advice.
Hi, welcome to a CMH short where we don't talk as much, or hopefully.
Yeah, right.
I'm not short-winded.
Nope.
But we're going to try to be today. I'm Laurel. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a mental health educator.
Hey, I'm Juniper, a licensed clinical social worker and also a mental health educator. And supposedly we are going to be short today.
Yes, this is just going to be a little quickie. What we're going to do today is give you a glossary, an auditory glossary of sorts. So our goal really with this glossary, what we thought was, wow, as clinicians, we get so caught up in use of jargon and it just becomes language that we speak, right? But for folks who are not mental health professionals or clinical professionals, sometimes it can be really overwhelming to hear the ways that we talk about things, even though our whole job is to work with people of all kinds who may not know these words.
Yeah.
So, what I really was thinking about when I suggested doing something like this was I was reading through my own bio and thinking about how I could rewrite it in a way that might be more welcoming to folks who don't have therapy experience or who have not heard a bunch of this therapist jargon. And I think so many times if you're writing a bio that's like going to be on a website or on Psychology Today, are we like writing these for people who are seeking our services, or are we writing these for other clinicians? And what I mean by that is we use so much therapy jargon in our even in just our bio, but I'm sure it can come out in all kinds of other ways too. What does it mean when you see all these random terms? Like if you're trying to seek professional support, we're going to break down some of the terms for you so that you know what these people are saying.
And if you're a therapist, you can maybe take a teeny peek at your bio or maybe some awareness of like, wonder if the words I'm using are accessible or have I explained these to my clients? Because people might feel uncomfortable to say, I'm not really sure what CBT means. Like I see it everywhere. And then here's the bonus. People might have different definitions of some of this.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Might use it differently. So this is our definition.
This is our definition.
Based on research, and we're right.
Well, what I was about to say was, if you are a professional and you have a different definition of something that we are defining in our glossary today, please feel free to share.
Okay, what was the number one that you saw?
Yeah, so I did a very informal research moment where I just browsed around at some different therapist bios locally, mostly because that was easy to do, and picked out terms that came up a lot as far as the kinds of therapy they offered, and my bio included. So the first one I have on our list is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. And I do think this is the one more people know about or have some concept of outside of like the specifically clinical realm, because it's been around. It is also a therapeutic modality. It's an orientation, as we often say, for many different reasons, becomes something that people use as like a guide, as like, well, if someone does this, like this is what I need. Because insurance pays for it.
Yeah, it's the gold standard. It's highly researched.
Allegedly. It's the gold standard, allegedly.
Allegedly. The lawyer lady up there in the booth is telling me to say allegedly.
Cognitive behavioral therapy addresses our thinking. We address our thinking. We work on reframing our thinking. We work on identifying errors in our thinking, which theoretically affects our emotions about a situation, which theoretically would also affect our behavior, right? It's like the triangle.
Yeah.
So when we're seeing cognitive behavioral therapy, cognitive thoughts, behavioral behaviors, that's what we're focusing on, is how we think about something. What do you think?
That's a great definition.
Thanks.
I'm going to say nailed it.
Done. All right, on to the next. Mindfulness.
Okay.
This is one that came up quite a lot. How would you describe that to somebody?
Okay. I would say being aware of the present moment.
Yes.
Like just being aware of what's happening right now. I would just go with that.
Yeah, that's it. That's pretty simple.
Yeah. I might want to, as we do in some of our trainings that address mindfulness, is that it is inherently a spiritual practice, or that's where the roots of mindfulness come from, is a spiritual tradition within the Buddhist tradition. And I'm sure lots of other contemplative practices within other religions. So if I wanted to get really detailed, because I can't just not say the thing.
I know.
And I would also say that it is plucked from said spiritual tradition and other things that went along with what mindfulness was in those contemplative traditions, that we've kind of plucked it to apply as a biohack.
And there are you may see lots of iterations of mindfulness, like mindfulness-based stress reduction or other things that include that term. And at the end of the day, it's just a different flavor of being in the present moment.
Yep. And there's some evidence behind that. But if a therapist writes mindfulness on their bio, what do you think that means is in relation to how that's going to show up in the therapy room?
I think it would mean that there's going to be a lot of refocusing on what's happening in the present and your present experience, and figuring out ways to, I mean, there are lots of different things you can do with it, right? But like figuring out ways to be curious about your present experience and either learn to sit with it or tolerate it or fill in the blank.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think if I was a discerning client looking for a therapist and I was either curious about mindfulness or I was looking for it, I would want a little more detail. Like, what do you mean by that? Are we going to be meditating? Like, I think maybe giving some examples, because like you said, there's so many iterations and there's all spiritual practices. And like, I'd like to know what the heck I'm getting into.
My next one I have is somatic.
Just somatic.
Just somatic. So somatic just refers to the body, right? So if you are seeing someone use the term somatic in their description of what they do, that means they're somehow going to involve focus on the body. That doesn't mean that there has to be touch, but sometimes there can be. So I think that's another good question to ask if you are kind of interviewing or searching for someone to work with and they have that term in their bio talking about the kind of therapy they do.
Yeah. I'd like to know what training they have in somatic approaches. Let's get a little more detailed. Putting in, I practice somatic therapy, period.
What does that mean?
I appreciate that. What you're saying is you bring the body into the sessions or that you're going to do some type of body focused approach. But what does that even mean? If I was a client, I'd be like, what does this even
what are you going to do to me?
Yeah. Or like, what does it mean bring my body in? And like, I don't know. I just think that that's vague.
It's vague.
I've noticed that when I've received somatic therapies that are highly based on that, we look into the body. What's this part trying to say? What are you noticing? What are its qualities? What does it say to you? What is it having to say? You know, blah, blah, blah. How's it connected to everything else? It's like a big focus.
Yeah.
And it's not about the thoughts that are around. Typically, those can come up, but it's really just paying attention to that. How do you put that into a few words?
It's hard.
Yeah.
Which is why we're doing this glossary.
Right. So I would say somatic approaches will not touch you.
Yeah. You definitely need to clarify.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a SE practitioner, but I do think sometimes there's touch involved in somatic experiencing and maybe in some other somatic
havening, some touching.
Yeah. So the next one I will say is parts work
or internal family systems.
Well, yes, I was going to go there.
Oh.
But I think
because I saw that in a few.
Yeah,
bios.
Internal family systems is like an iteration of parts work, right? So often you'll see IFS or internal family systems, but I have noticed that more people now are just saying parts work, which is fine.
Or ego states.
Ego
Same
states.
thing.
So what that is going to be focused on are the idea that we have different parts of ourself, that we are not just like one unit, a psyche composed of potentially many different parts with different roles or different jobs, and kind of utilizing that framework to work through things. All right. My next one I have is systemic. And I'm going to let you explain this one because this is your whole thing.
Oh, goodness. So if you see system, most likely there's going to be brought in something else besides yourself.
Yeah.
The way that I think we use it would be that you are a part of a system. So for example, the body's a system. It's a bunch of different things working together to be a whole conglomerate.
Mm-hmm.
So you see the conglomerate, but it's also a bunch of different parts working together. Like all the cool bacteria living in your stomach works in coordinates with the neurons in your brain firing and all the fluids going through your body. And each one of those are individual systems within a greater system, the body. And then we exist in lots of other systems.
Right.
And systems theory, oh God, never mind, you guys. I'm getting really dorky and I'm stopping it because I was going to go.
Here we go.
I was going to go into how systems theory was actually used in economics and different things. But the idea is that you are a system. You're made up of systems and you exist in greater systems, like systems on systems on systems. And then I also thought of Inception when I was thinking that.
Ooh,
like,
it is a little bit Inception-y.
Yeah. Dream within a dream within a dream.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, here's Laurel and here's me and we're a system and this table, but then also we're in a community. And then also there's political systems. There's systems of like industry of like how these things came to us. So
yeah, but I think ultimately with that understanding, if someone is not referring to the smaller system, like in a family therapy context, it's bringing into the therapeutic work, including the narrative of being part of a system, that we're not just working on only you as operating in a vacuum, but the understanding that nobody lives in a vacuum. And so we're bringing that understanding of what systems you inhabit into the therapy space.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Bing, bing, bing.
Keep giving me rewards for this.
You deserve a prize at the end of this.
Thank you. Okay. Next is person-centered. Since we just did systems.
Yeah. You see that a lot.
You do see that a lot. And I would say that my work is very rooted in person-centered theory and understanding and conceptualization. And so the way I usually explain it is the client is the expert. I don't come in with an agenda or goals that I think a person needs to work on. The most important and the only real important thing is what you want to work on.
I think this really helps me understand it. Unconditional positive regard.
And yes, that is very important.
Unconditional positive regard, what that means, if you're looking at the client through a person-centered lens, they are autonomous and they are full of strengths, and that we believe that they have full humanity, dignity, worth, autonomy, and abilities to be able to exist in this human form.
Right.
That's kind of what I think.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so important. And I'm glad you bring that in because it's this idea that you're not broken, so I don't need to fix you. Right?
Okay, now
do I get a full ding ding?
Nailed it. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
That's you are not broken.
I don't need to fix you. So it's not my agenda, because if it's my agenda, that means I see something that I need to fix or control. If you're not broken, then we understand that you, again, have agency and autonomy, and you're very capable of knowing what you need.
Yeah.
Even if you're not sure in that moment, deep down, you are a capable person who can know what you need.
You know what you need. And I would say this is a non-pathologizing approach if that's something you're looking for.
I have a few more, but do you have any that I haven't said yet that you...
I was going to do EMDR.
I was going to do that one too. You go ahead, because you practice EMDR or have.
Well, I was trained on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think that is something that clients are interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of requests for referrals specifically for EMDR. And it stands for, and I can never say this correctly. If you are listeners of the show, you know that I have a speech impediment.
You can do it though. I believe in you.
Yeah, this is a big growing edge for me, is to talk in public, but it stands for eye movement desensitization. I said
You did.
And reprocessing.
You did the whole thing.
I know. I said
On the first try.
desensitization correctly. You all, that one just trips me up. And with clients, I'm just like, look,
Nailed it.
I'll be like, I can't pronounce this word, but trust me, I know what it means. And usually that like seals the deal. They're like, and you're my therapist. But no, just joking. But so basically that's what it stands for. Hello, editing Juniper here. And apparently I could not explain EMDR in less than 20 minutes. So I asked my good friend Megan, who is not only a certified EMDR practitioner, but also a consultant and trainer, to explain EMDR for me.
Hi, this is Megan Meyerhofer, and I am a licensed clinical social worker, registered play therapist supervisor, and EMDRIA approved EMDR consultant and training. And EMDR is a type of therapy that is fairly structured, evidence-based, that helps people recover from trauma and distressing life experiences. It was developed in the 80s by Dr. Francine Shapiro, and it involves recalling a difficult or traumatic or distressing memory while also being engaged in bilateral stimulation, which can be eye movements, tapping with tappers or self-tapping, and or audio tones. And that the theory is that helps the brain process and reframe the memory. EMDR is based on the idea that some memories become kind of stuck in the brain and then the nervous system and fail to process naturally. And so by revisiting these memories in a safe, attuned, connected relationship with a therapist, EMDR helps to activate the brain's natural healing process and, kind of transforms that distressing memory into a less disturbing recollection of it. And it is shown effective for PTSD, complex PTSD, anxiety, depression, panic, phobias, addiction, and many other conditions.
People request this type of therapy because it's known to be a therapy that integrates somatics, because now we know what that means, and the mind. It's seen as a integrative-ish approach. There's some controversy around the science behind this, but a lot of people love EMDR.
Just be, again, another time to ask a question of, hey, how do you use this? Is this something that you use for kind of across the board or specific in specific situations? How do you determine when you would use this kind of a therapy? Is
Great
what I would
questions.
ask. Okay, I have a couple more that I do think
All right, let's go.
Are weird if you're not a therapist. Are you ready? Okay, psychodynamic. Because people use that one a lot. Like therapists use that one a lot. And I love psychodynamic theory and I use it a lot. But what the hell does that even mean? I mean, I know what it means, but like what? Yeah. It sounds, the definition is not in the term.
Yeah, no, it is not.
To me at all. Psychodynamic, I think, is again one of those things that's like very complex. Very, very complex, and has a lot of folks that have contributed to this theory over many, many years. And so there are different ways you can be psychodynamic in your practice. And so here's where it is hard to make this glossary. But I guess what I would say is if you're using any kind of a psychodynamic theory or iteration of it. Siri? No. I know there's no one in my contacts named Iteration. Please close yourself. Bye, Siri. Okay.
Thanks for looking out.
If you're using any kind of an iteration of a psychodynamic theory, really it's focused on the past. Let's talk about your early experiences, what your story was throughout your development, understanding how the people in your life during your childhood played a role in how you understand yourself and how you understand your connection to the world and other people in the now. And so it's really about, to me, going back and finding through lines and patterns that started to be created, like sometimes from pre-birth all the way up until now.
All right. I like that definition.
What do you think?
The only other thing I would add, just because I'm on the end of teaching the theory behind the approach. So something I would add in teaching psychodynamic to my students was the iceberg.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I know that's like really trending on YouTube, like the iceberg of such and such. The iceberg is that you only see a little portion of it. And what's unseen underneath the water represents, well, from the earliest psychodynamic practitioners was the unseen or the unconscious,
Sure.
AKA subconscious.
The drivers, the unconscious drivers.
There we go.
Yeah.
You remember. So like the top part is what you see. So what you might see coming out is anger or sadness or a whole host of things. Sometimes going back to the past is helpful in uncovering the unseen parts that have become automatic processes rather than conscious processes. Right. So you see one thing, but there's other things driving it. Yeah. So I like to think of the iceberg when I think of that.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Very nice. Okay, I just have one more that I would love for you to talk about because I do think it shows up a lot and I think it sounds very weird to somebody who has never learned about it.
Okay, I'm really nervous.
You don't be nervous.
I feel like on the spot and like maybe
don't be nervous.
Okay.
I think you're going to like it. Motivational interviewing.
Oh, yes. Motivational interviewing would be like, is Tony Robbins coming into the room?
Yeah.
Like,
it would,
is this it would be a little bit, on the Oprah show?
Like daunting, maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So the key components of MI, motivational interviewing, that is important for everyone to know that it's a spirit. Like it's the spirit of MI. And the reason why I'm saying it like that is that it's not necessarily a protocol like CBT or EMDR. Now you all know we can use these words, but it's more of a spirit, almost like person-centered. It's not like saying, here's what you do if you're a person-centered therapist. But we talked about that unconditional positive regard. Well, with MI, the spirit is collaborative. So the idea, again, is that the client has full capacity and autonomy. It's a collaborative approach. We're not telling people what to do. It's based on the stages of change. Motivational interviewing was originally used to affect behavior change and addictions. And so the idea is that depending on what stage of change you're in, whether you're ready to make the change or not, you aren't going to try to force someone. You're not going to try to coerce them or tell them that they're wrong. You meet them where they're at in whatever stage they are and work with them and their goals and their ambivalence. And ambivalence is feeling two ways about something. So if you're feeling two ways about something, or you're saying, well, on the one hand, this, and on the other hand, that, we work with the ambivalence by, guess what? In the spirit of MI, how do we work with ambivalence?
Motivationally interviewing them?
Yes,
I don't do a lot. I mean, I'm sure I do MI, but I'm not like a MI, like that's not what I would say I focus on.
Yeah, I think you do a lot.
I probably do.
Yeah, you have the spirit. It's very person-centered.
Yeah.
We take ambivalence, what was commonly known, especially in the addiction world, as resistance. We do not see it like that. We're not saying you're resisting treatment. And I'm sure this is maybe possibly bringing up anxiety in people that have heard those words,
because I know people have.
That makes me so sad. But the idea is you're not resistant. You're feeling ambivalent. You're feeling two ways about something. And both of those are equally important. There's pros and cons. So the spirit of MI, the role of a practitioner is to work with the ambivalence. Yeah. Work with it. Acknowledge it. Go with it. Look at the pros and cons. Yeah. And the best part is the agenda is for you to reach your goals and needs and find some type of balance in the ambivalence. I think it's a very helpful spirit or practice when working with decision-making, when working with behaviors that people want to change or address. I personally use the spirit of MI in almost all my interactions with people in various ways.
That makes sense.
When it's appropriate.
It is more of a spirit than a protocol. Yeah. I like how you put that. But the spirit can be present in working on any kind of decision. So if you are in a space in your life where you're really struggling with ambivalence, or like, I don't know how I feel about this, or I have this real dilemma in my life or in my mind or in my heart, I think finding a therapist who says they work in the spirit of motivational interviewing might actually be super helpful.
Oh, yeah. Because I do not want to be told that I'm not being healthy, that there's something wrong with the decisions I'm making, even as I'm contemplating changing those. Instead of being told to right away, like,
just pick one.
Here's the plan.
Pick something.
Yeah. Here's the plan. Just do it. Like, what if I had $1 for every time a client or myself said, I know what to do. I just can't get myself to do it. How many times have you heard that?
I tell it to myself all the time.
100%. And it's true.
Oops.
So MI assumes you have all the knowledge. We're not going to teach you the unhealthy aspects of smoking or
like shame you into quitting.
Yeah.
You're like, you're going to kill yourself through using these cigarettes. Like that's not.
Most people say like, I know these things, or I know when I'm depressed, the best thing I can do is take a walk. I just can't do it. And then that's ambivalence. And so instead of saying, well, just do it then, you must not care about your health or whatever it is, or like coming up with a million strategies or apps or whatever it is, we say, let's get into that. What's good about moving? What's good about not moving? So anyway, I love it. I love it. Can you all tell?
That's why I asked you to describe it. Although I do recognize that because you love it, it's probably hard to be short-winded about it.
I'll let it.
Okay.
Pitter Patter is Zulu. You all will get to know Zulu is the dog, an elderly dog who pitter patters because we don't cut her toenails. She doesn't like it and she's older, and who cares?
If she doesn't care, I don't care. Have the talents, girl.
Okay, so that's what you're hearing if you might hear that. Okay. I took a page from your playbook.
Okay.
And I said common therapist phrases that annoy me.
Oh, yes.
And common therapist phrases that don't annoy me. And I know that since this is a short, I think we're just going to have to rapid fire these without giving explanations.
Okay, let's do a rapid fire, but rate our annoyance. How annoyed you are versus how annoyed I am.
Right.
Let's just do a quick 1 to 10.
I think we should.
Okay.
What's 10?
Most annoyed. We could be, and we're not going to give any explanation about why we're annoyed.
No, we're just
so
gonna
if
do
you're
it.
Curious about why that annoys us, you're going to have to ask.
And we will tell you.
And I will.
So first one, how's that working for you?
I'm a 4.
How's that working? To me, it feels condescending.
You're not supposed to explain.
Oh, damn it. Okay. Don't sweat the small stuff. 10. I'm confused about ... 7.
Wow. Okay.
This is a hot take. I wrote hot take in parentheses.
Okay.
Can I pause you there for a second? That's an 8 for me.
That's a 6.
Okay. How does that make you feel? That's a 5.
7.
You can't love others until you love yourself.
10. Is that something that people actually still say?
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Keep going.
Release what no longer serves, or any other word that has serves. 8.
9.
What are you noticing right now as you speak about ... 3.
Yeah, that's a 3.
I'm curious about ... I say that all the time.
I was
in
about
all
to say, is this a
conversation.
phrase that annoys you? Because I say this constantly.
We've moved on to don't annoy me. I just didn't want people to know.
I got so nervous.
No,
that's a 1 for me because I say it all the time.
I'm curious about 1.
1.
On the one hand, ... On the other hand, ...
2.
Yeah. I can only imagine how blank that was for you.
1.
Yeah.
I say that all the time too. If people hate these, you're going to let me know why. So nobody is ever mad at me.
Right?
Just kidding.
Laurel, we need to unpack that in a future episode. Tell me more about that ...
1.
I'm a 1 there too. I'm right
Please
here.
always tell me more about everything.
Right. I'm right here with you.
3.
Yeah. To me, it depends on how it's stated and how many times, but I'm going to say a 2 because I like to know. I like people being there with me and my ugly. This is the classic one. You're doing the best you could with what you had.
1.
I said 5. I said,
oh no.
Here's why. Well, we're not supposed to.
Lie. You can tell me later.
Okay. Oh God, I really want to say it, but that's a 5 for me.
Okay.
Okay. Any more to add? Those were it. I try to keep them short because this is short.
That was good. Unpack that, which you just said.
2.
4.
Or a 8. Let's go with 8. What I'm hearing you say is ... Could be a 5.
That's
depending.
a 2.
Okay.
I think I do say that. I don't know. Now I'm going to be auditing myself in every single session this week just to make sure I'm not saying any of these things. It's okay though.
But it's also cool to have a therapy catchphrase.
Mm-hmm.
It's also cool to have a therapy catchphrase and that you and your clients both know it's an inside joke. What's your therapy catchphrase?
Take care of yourself.
Smell you later.
Oh.
Joking.
And on that note, I think this short is done. Smell you later.
All right.
If I don't smell you first?
Yeah. Smeller's the feller. The rhyme commits the crime. All right. Peace.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for joining us in our very first short. Let's see how short we can get this.
Like and subscribe. Okay. Bye.